I have to go to the very first day of creation. We have to read it because it's the foundation of every single thing that we're dealing with. It's going to let you know what a 24-hour day is, if it exists or not. If it's only 12 hours in the daylight, which it is, but there's also 12 hours in the day-night, or the nighttime. You got to talk about a day and a date. They go hand in hand in the scripture. We read in Leviticus how much time it says, and on the 10th day of this, and on the 15th day of that. So those are dates that are being mentioned. Let's go right to the beginning. You can go read along. You've got your scripture. I'll put up the verses as we go through it slowly. But some important so-called scriptural Hebrew words associated with this topic are. So people like the Hebraic understanding, you got to break down some of these English words to the best of the Hebraic words. And I only do that just for the sake of communication. I don't really need to go into all Hebrew understandings to prove the almanac, but it helps. Erev means evening. Layil means night. Nishef means twilight. Shabbat, Sabbath. Or means light. Yom, as you've heard before, Yom, day. You even have a word called Yomam. Not your mom, but Yomam is daytime. It means daytime, day, and daily. A lot of people don't know about this word. It's used quite extensively in the scripture. And this is what's happened. It becomes a little bit of a mixture because this only refers to the light period, whereas this word could refer to the light period and the 24-hour day as well. That's the things you have. You have Bokur is the other word for morning, and Makar is equal to morrow. So those are the words you're going to need to know if you want to do your own personal study. Now this first 24-hour day of origination was the first day of many cycles of time. Day one of creation was the first day of the following things. The first day of creation is the first day of the original calendar. Think about it. The evening of the morning was the first day. Time is starting. The Most High is counting time. And He's counting time with no sun, no moon, no stars, and no earth. No formation of an earth. It's also the first day of the first 24-hour evening and morning cycle. We're talking about the Genesis 1. It's also the first day of the weekly cycle. It's the first day of the first month, which we call a bib. It's the first day of the first season, which is spring or the latter rains. And it's also the first day of the first yearly cycle. And it's the first day of the first 7,000-year cycle of time. A lot of first things, but I need you to understand, if we're moving forward, what I'm saying here. That first day is the first day of many things. Obviously, it's the first. When you're born, it's the first day of your life. It's the first day of your first year. It's the first day of your first month. The first day of your first season. It's the same concept as well. And it's a Most High, if He has cycles, He also has patterns that He does things off of. And everything is patterned off of Him. Now, the cycles of time began with the preeminence of darkness first. I know a lot of people that talk about darkness and it's representative of evil. You should know this is what the Gentiles did, because darkness can represent evil in scripture sometimes. This is why they would call black people evil and say that they're wicked, and the Mormons will go so far as to say that the devil's children, so to speak, because they're misinterpreting this understanding of darkness. Darkness is dealing with the Most High is a great thing, but it can be symbolic of evil and also can be symbolic of not knowing something. Whereas light now is symbolic of you knowing something, and it's symbolic of good. But even the devil can appear as an angel of light. So we've got to be careful. Somebody had something to say? We're going to read the scripture first.
You're talking about the light in the physical, right?
Both. There's a physical. Everything that there's physical, there's spiritual. So yes, if I determine to say something, we're talking about physical or spiritual, we'll clarify what it is. And more times you see a lot of them are both.
Because I think in Exodus it was miraculous. It's a lot of light, miraculous lights. But anyway.
Okay. Scripture.
2 Corinthians, for Yah, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, has shined in our hearts, to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of Yah in the face of Yahshua.
Hamashiach, if you want to say it, that's it. All right.
Yeah.
My brother, that's a good question. Here's a physical and a spiritual in one sentence. In one verse, I should say. He did command the light to shine in the darkness, that physical light, but it's also a spiritual light. We talk about knowledge as well. But the point of this is that it was dark first, and then he said, let there be light. Gentiles teach out there that because the Most High is light, that light is first. But you have to understand, he's making this pattern. He's telling you how things go. It's right there in your scripture. Hope everybody's at Genesis chapter 1, because we've got to look at that. It's important. There's an orderly pattern before we move on. You're going to see in this very one verse, heaven is made first, the earthly is second. The masculine is first, the feminine is second. Darkness was first, then light came in second. You read that the evening was first, then the morning came in second. Adam was a black man, he was created first, then the white people came after the black man was made. Not initially, later on. The first empires were all Negro or black empires. Now in the end times, it's Gentile empires. We know about Egypt, Babylon, all those great empires, Media, Persia, all run by black people from the top to the bottom. But the pattern is they got that first piece of the pie first. Now the Gentiles are getting a piece of the pie, and then, as you know, it's going to go back to Jacob. Salvation came to the black families of nations first, then to the Gentile family of nations. People can debate that, but what I'm saying is that when Israel was on the scene, all the nations that were around them that heard about this mighty one of Israel, they were all black nations. Egypt, Philistine again. So they knew about these things first, whereas the so-called Gentiles, Greeks as we call them too, they didn't get no knowledge about this truth until way later on. Thousands of years later, as a matter of fact. So this heavenly is first, but it's also represented as spiritual. The earthly is second, but it's also represented as physical. So spirit is first, then the physical comes after. I can move on from here. A little bit of understanding? All right. Now people say when the Most High said, let there be light, that's when he began creating things. But that's a foundational error. People say that creation began when he said, let there be light, and then he began making things. That's not what you read in the scripture. You see very clearly that that's an aspect. That was probably the first words you might have heard him say in writing. But he was creating in the darkness. It's there. Look at this second Ezra from the Apocrypha. A nice scripture.
And I said,
I didn't probably change the name Zira. I just left it at the KJV. So if you see Lord, you say Yah, whatever you understand it to be, or you say Lord or whatever. It's up to you.
and I said, oh, yeah, thou speakest from the beginning of the creation, even the first day, and said thus, let heaven and earth be made, and thy word was a perfect word. And then was the spirit, and darkness, and silence were on every side. The sound of man's voice was not yet formed. Then commandest thou fear light to come forth of thy treasures, that thy work might appear.
So notice here what it says. It says, when he said when he commanded the light to come forth, the light came forth so that his what? His work could appear. That means he was working in the darkness. People say you can't work in the nighttime. That's so silly. Enough people can work in the nighttime. You have to have watchmen and everything. The Most High doesn't need no rest. He's always working. He don't need no rest. Night and day are the same thing to him. So, it says in Genesis 1:1, the very first verse, which troubles a lot of people. In the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth. And when people read this, right off the bat, they go, okay, it says he made the earth, so that's how it was. He formed it. If you just read on, you start to see that this is the beginning of the formation of the earth.
Opening statement.
In this part here, this earth here, he's talking about the earth material, the heavenly material he made. Because remember, when we read it, you're going to see that in this instance, there's no round, flat, whatever, how you want to see the earth in the day one at all. Let's read it. Let's read it now. Now we're going to read the whole thing and see what's going on.
In the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth.
So he says, in the beginning, he created. Is creating a part of his work? Now, I put out a couple of videos before about this thing called the gap theory. The gap theory also could be known as the ruin and restoration theory. People will teach that in the beginning he made the heaven and earth, boom, there's a period there, and then from that period to the next verse 2, there's about millions and millions of years in between where Satan was on the world, a pre-Adamic race of pre-humans before Adam, the first human, dinosaurs, and that they were on this earth, and the Most High gave them this earth, and they just trashed the place. And the Most High gave a judgment to it, and he basically destroyed it and mashed it up. And then in verse 2, he begins to recreate the earth. This is the earth material. There's nothing to walk on, live on, move on. And the first thing he made is heaven. And you think about the Most High. He's going to set up his place first. Because this heaven is where he has his throne, where he puts all things. No angels have been made yet. This is the problem people have. They can't justify where angels are made. Angels were made on the first day of creation. Very easy to see. But it's only easy to see if you're really looking for it. For a lot of people, when was the devil made? When did he go evil? But there was millions of years of all kind of evil going on. Let's say, in between verses 1 and 2. And then you get to day 6 of creation, and the Most High says, and he saw all that he had made, and it was what? Say it. It was very good. Could there possibly be any evil in that first creation week then? Why would he say very good? And it says all he made. But then so many people would say there was death and Satan and all that. Satan was made good. Satan wasn't made evil. He was made righteous, upright. Until iniquity was found in him. So if anybody tells you there's a gap theory in between, don't believe it. It's not true. Everything was good. Satan became evil afterwards. Sin, who does sin come through besides the devil? Which human being?
Adam.
Come on, Adam, right? It says death came through Adam. Sin and death came through Adam. It doesn't say it came through Satan, even though he was the one who orchestrated it. But Adam and death came through Adam. So there can't be death and human beings before Adam. So that's a joke thing. You know why they have a problem with that too? Well, who did Cain marry then? You know, when it says he took his wife, there must have been other human beings. He married his sister, yo. It's the only people that are around. It's not like we think now of incest and that. There ain't nobody else around. They lived a very, very long time. Adam and Eve had many, many children. It says they had sons and daughters. I would say Adam and Eve had a whole lot. It goes as far as more than maybe even more than 50. Because she could live a long. Adam lived to what, 930? I don't know how long Eve lived, but I'm sure a lot of children come out in that time period.
So do you say now when God created Adam and Eve, is only created one man and one woman?
At the beginning. In the beginning, yes. In the beginning, it's actually Adam first. Then Eve comes after Adam. Right? And then from them, the first 2 human beings that were born are Cain and Abel. And after that, you're going to have children and children and children. And then another son is born in the likeness of his father named Seth. But you can read the scripture, it says, many daughters and children that they had. So right here, I want to focus on here, even though I went there. He made the heaven and he made the earth. Let's see how the earth was looking in the beginning. Verse.
And the earth was without void,
Without what?
without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters.
So we were in darkness. There's a creation, he created in darkness. The heaven is still in darkness. The earth material this earth doesn't have no forms. It's not, people think void, without form and void means it would look like a desert. And then there was just these things. There was nothing. The earth, it's earth material. It's like particles, it's matter. So when it says the face of the deep, you know that means surface of the deep, right? Old English, they should have put surface. S-U-R-F-A-C-E. But it says the Spirit of Elohim was moving upon the face of the waters. Doing what? Being active, creating, and taking care of that heaven, and setting it up nice. Making sure that when he brings these angels in, boom, they're going to have a nice place to come into. And he made lots of angels.
And it does say deep, which is waters there.
That's right.
Water.
That's
water
right.
exists.
Deep waters. But we don't hear him say, let there be waters. It doesn't say in the beginning he made the heavens and the water.
Water was wisdom.
But what it is when you deal with earth, the waters are dealing with physical things, and waters deal with spiritual things. So back to my brother before, talking about spiritual and physical. Yeah, because remember the Messiah says, if you follow him, out of your belly will flow rivers of waters. Even in heaven, there's a sea of glass waters. Even on the second day of creation, waters were separated from above and waters below. Spiritual waters above, physical waters below. So yes, the waters are there. And where is this earth? It's within the deep. It's in the materials. It's within the water, like clay, just not together, no form, no shape, nothing. It's the waters that are there, and darkness is preeminent. So important to know this because I found that a lot of people skip over these two verses here. There's a lot of information there. What are the four elements that make up all things that they talk about? One is earth,
Wind, fire.
earth, air, wind, fire, and
Action.
water. The earth is the matter particles. The wind and the air is the spiritual aspect. Right? There's water, and then we have fire. Right now, all we got here is wind or air or spirit and water so far. Oh, and we have three things. We don't have our fire yet. How's our fire gonna come?
Light.
Let there be.
Light.
What makes light? Energy, right? Fire, light, energy, same thing. Let's continue.
So would not be lightning.
Light, lightning, anything that it's all the same type of element.
So it's there. Right?
Yes. Continue. Another person. He's doing something.
And just said, let there be light, and there was light. And the El saw the light, that it was good. And Elohim divided the light from the darkness.
Right. So we divided it. Light comes forth from the darkness. No. It said that the verse we read before.
So basically,
commanded the light to shine out of darkness.
So basically you are saying, and the earth was without form, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Right? So for darkness to exist, there has to be light. So the way I see it, the Most High, who is light, is somewhere else. And because he's not where the earth is, or his presence, there's darkness there. Now, I mean, that's how I see it. So there's darkness because there's a form of light somewhere else. You get what I'm saying?
But the Most High says, I create darkness and light.
No, I do understand.
So, if you, I mean, you could see it that way, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
I like how you said how you see it. This is how it's being seen here too. You understand? I like your saying we go over there. I'm not going to add on all that understanding. You can try to stick what I'm seeing. I'm seeing something unfold here.
Yeah, man, no problem.
Continuing.
And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day.
Now I highlighted a lot of words up there. Those words are very important because for people who don't want to keep a 24-hour Sabbath and only want to do the 12-hour light thing, you have a problem with the first day. Because this first day has a lot in it. These are the important words of the first day of creation that you've seen in there. Darkness, night, and evening. Right? You also have light, day, and morning. One and the other. O'Neill, one and the other.
Yeah.
I put this point because this is a big, I got a couple of more things to deal with, but this is a big understanding of what a day is.
But it doesn't actually say that the evening and morning was the first day, and there was the evening, and there was morning.
Day one.
The first day, yeah.
And there was
day
evening
one.
and there was morning, the first
It
day.
doesn't say that, yeah. In Hebrew here, it doesn't say.
Yeah, but I know the Hebrew says, Ikad one,
There
right?
was the evening,
Yes.
and there was morning. the
Day one.
transition.
There was evening
First
and
day
morning.
came, yeah.
First day, yeah. I
No,
know
but
what's it?
you're saying there was evening, and there was morning.
Yeah, the
First
transition.
day.
The first day.
But with this, when it said were the first day, we would think the past events make up the first day. But when you Hebrew, when they say there was evening, there was morning, day one.
Yeah.
Could also mean day one. It could just be stepping into day one going forward, as opposed to this one telling you the previous day just finished and completed day one. If you get what I'm saying.
Get what you're saying.
All right.
I do like what's being set up here though, still. I want to stick with what's being set up here.
Okay.
But I want you to see these things here because all these words are from that what we just read. And all I did is categorize them into the spots that they agree with. The evening is the beginning of the nighttime and it's dark. The morning is the beginning of the light or the daytime and it's light. I can't see 24 hours like this so simply. In all which ways? I'm not even using just the evening and the morning. Darkness was there first. You see, what we're missing here is this first two things, these things, check it out. If the Messiah said, I do not 12 hours in a day, right?
Yeah.
This darkness part here was 12 hours. When Messiah said, let there be light, that began the next 12-hour daylight time that makes up this. 12 hours of darkness. He said, let there be light. When it's in darkness, 12 hours in the day, right? The light, you're going to have it. You're going to have your 24-hour day. And no matter which way you want to go around it.
So the fact that you're using day to say 12 hours make the day, and then 12 hours at night make the day, that's very confusing. Because 3 days you should be in the shark belly, and 3 nights. He's very clear and distinct right there. You're saying 24 hours in the day. I'm saying if you want to say that, you should say 12 hours in the day and 12 hours in the night, rather than say 24 hours in the day. Because you're using the word day to create confusion.
That there is, even the word yom has different definitions. When we say, the word day is a very confusing word. But I could say, in the day that I get myself together. I don't know what that means. This means this is the time. In the days of the Messiah, talking about that time. The day could be a 24-hour period, or you could refer to the day as a 12. But you just have to read context. Whatever is around it. You brought up that, it says 7 days, you did it last week. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. Or 7 days you must have all leaven out of your house. And then I kind of like put it aside too, like, does that mean you could take out, you take out the leaven out of your house in the daytime, but in the nighttime you can bring it back in? That would be silly because those 7 days are talking about 7 24-hour days.
Yeah.
So it's context.
Again, I could make the case that night is missing from the sentence. 7 day and night. You could easily see that it could remove.
You can miss from sentence, but then also you have this thing, right? Like I said, if you say because you don't see no night, what you're going to do, you're going to take all the leaven out of your house in the daytime, and in the nighttime, you're going to eat your leaven and bring it back in the house, and then in the daytime, in the morning, you're going to make sure it's all out, and then go back to an unleavened type of fast. It wouldn't make no sense. We know he means 7 days of eating unleavened bread is 7 days and nights. Even if you don't see it, you're supposed to be able to see it. Spiritual, man. Here's another verse right here. Somebody asked me about darkness and stuff. Isaiah 45. I form the light and create darkness. It's his things. Everything is his things. So I use the pattern of what the Most High do. I don't need to try to imagine something else. He's laying it down for us in the scripture.
But in reality, there got to be a balance. You can't have a half balance thing going. There got to be a balance. So if we said that was 24 before, then let's say 48 now then. Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
So we would have to work with the latter, and then it's going to reproduce itself going forward, because it only, just like creation, it only can reproduce of its kind.
That's right.
So if he created this way, you can see darkness, night, evening.
That's right.
Then we're going to have the opposite of that now, right?
Yeah.
To make it. That's just my.
And for 6 days, you have darkness and light in there. You don't just have light. You don't just have. So I'll get to another. I'm gonna get to a nice verse for the 12-hour people, and then we can get some talk there.
It's a funny statement. A lot of times we look at the verse, are there not 12 hours in a day? And sometimes it's good to look at it. Sometimes Yahushua could be speaking in a general term, because we know in the summertime, come on, man, you can get 15 hours of sunlight. You can get 13
Yeah, but
hours.
wintertime, you only
In the
get 10
wintertime,
hours
you're
there.
getting 10 hours. You go to the Arctic,
Is that the same
it's,
thing?
it's the same thing day and night. So at midnight, the sun is still up. So a lot of time when we take scripture, we should see, is he saying it? He just, are there not 12 hours in a day? He's just speaking general now. You work. Don't you work from boom to boom? And then you stop work when the sun goes
And
down?
Ray, one thing I'll even say, all you gotta do is read in the context. He wasn't even really talking about time.
No, just,
They were talking about, you know, they said, hey, he's going up to Jerusalem, and they said to him, no, well, if you go up there to Jerusalem, they're going to kill you, right? And then he said, are there not 12 hours in a day?
I gotta do the
and then
work.
the nighttime come.
When no man can
It's
work.
just a general discussion.
Yeah, I
But
know.
people run with it because they don't want to keep the night, the first night of the 7-day Sabbath. They got other things to do. So let's look at this.
I don't think that's the case.
I think it leaks into that.
Yeah, I don't,
That's my
It's not the case.
I'm 100% assuming it.
it's not the
Yeah.
case, but it keeps, what I'm saying, but
You
it
can't
keeps
speak
banging.
like that, man.
Yeah, you can speak like that.
Hey, you speak on your concept.
Because people,
Alright.
because you're saying people probably are like breaking the Sabbath, know what I mean?
Yeah, they would be considered to me, if somebody only kept a 12-hour Sabbath, I have no problem saying, I'm not judging you.
No.
But I'm saying that would be breaking the Sabbath. Because if it's Sabbath is 24 hours, and you might do
So,
whatever
okay,
you want on the first 12.
if I'm home, right? So I say I'm home before I realized it was 12 hours and I hit the 24 from my baby growing up. And then I realized, okay, the Most High is showing said days, separate the two of them, so days mean day, like mean like, okay, I understand. But Sabbath night come, I'm still home. But when the Sabbath comes, it's like, I say, okay, I know it's Sabbath day, I'm going. Nothing changed, just that I realized. You can't say I'm trying to do something in the night, because nothing changed really, just that I
I
realized.
have no
If
problem.
you know what I mean, if
Yes,
you know
I
what I
know
mean.
what
Okay.
There's also something in the Bible which is called an evening oblation, which we have to observe. So it tells you that.
And the morning oblation as well.
Thank you.
So look at this. After we just read, this is what I come to understand. This is the first 24-hour day begins with the 12-hour night cycle. In the beginning was darkness. He originates his heavenly domain in the darkness. His spirit is moving and being active in the darkness above the surface of the waters. He makes heaven in that first day. He makes the earth material in that first day. But we know that the earth is informed, the waters are brought together, and the earth has come forth from the water until the third day. That should be understood. The unformed earth material is submerged in the deep, dark waters. His spirit moves upon the dark waters of the deep. Then he says, let there be light, which ends that first cycle of darkness. And now morning begins. And then when morning begins, I'm going to give you an understanding here. The angels are what called? They're called what? Ministers of?
Light,
They're called flames of?
fire.
the morning stars.
Right? What is the adversary called? He's called the what? What do they say? He's called the
Shining something.
some kind of like the morning stars. Check this one out. The morning stars, son of the morning. Put it all together. When the Most High said, "Let there be light,"
Lights.
the angels became in existence, and they now are going to be a part of the heavenly domain. So heaven and let me finish this part here. Heaven and the universe are illuminated. Lucifer and the angels are originated and begin to inhabit heaven with Jah and his son Messiah. Then the first 24-hour day ends with the 12-hour light cycle, and then the next day is going to begin with the same pattern, evening and morning. Now, if you have something that's
No, I was just wanting to know if this is purely the first day, but you put it right there.
yes.
Okay.
So this happened, and I hope you understand. With me, I know when the angels were made, and I hope you do too. There's no other time you could find it, because that's why it says they were there when He made the earth. But the earth material wasn't made yet. So right from here, the angels become
Yeah,
alive on
Job
the first
speaks-
day, and they get to see everything that He does.
Job was there. Job spoke about it.
That's right.
Where were
So
you
all
when
the
you
angels
started?
get to see what's going on from when they're originated.
So you're saying
He's
that
the father of
And
lights.
they inhabit heaven that He had already made first.
you're saying from in the beginning, as is recorded in Genesis here,
Yes.
is when the angels were created,
Yes.
based on what scripture? What scripture?
I just
here?
was putting out a whole lot of information. I don't know if you were listening to it.
No, I get it, but I mean, can you read it in the Bible?
Well, like I said, if somebody wants to do it, but has a phone, let's look at what the angels are. If the angels are flames of
Spirits
fire,
Flames of fire.
and if they are sons of light, they can't be made before light.
And he's the father of lights.
He's the father of lights too. So when he says let there be light, I know it's hard for people to catch it, but this is how I told you these things are deep.
I catch it, bro.
I appreciate it.
Deep, man.
It's deep though. These things are not Mickey Mouse elementary stuff.
Makes sense.
Not
Just says,
about
"Let there be light."
smallness. I don't think anybody, I've never heard anybody bring forth the scriptures the first day, and I think that if you don't do the first day right, then everything you're going to build upon that is going to be some kind of shaky foundation. So this is where I get the first 24-hour day from. Now I'm going to move on.
So this when Yahushua was created too then?
Oh, he came before creation. Messiah comes before, he's before anything. He's made in eternity.
All things were made
By
through him.
And by him. Yeah, he's the one who said that there be light.
He set it up
Okay.
by the will of the Father, right?
Telling you this is the way you're going to have to get to understand how this works with this first day.
Don't be
And there
confused.
was a
Because he said he
particular
was
way
made Lord
how
of
they
Egypt.
go to war with those times.
He said he was made Lord
And there
of
was a
Egypt.
particular
For
time
what?
that they go to war.
When he put
Yes,
on
of course.
flesh.
Yeah.
Just only for the suffering?
When he put on the robe, that's when he's made a little lower than the
Thought he
angels.
said
So
angel,
again,
and
just
then-
looking at it another way, same type of chart of a 24-hour day. Now, we counted these things, the 12 hours of night and light, and like Ray said, keep messing with my name, I don't know why. Like Ray had said, in the summertime, the sun is out longer than 12 hours. 15. In Jerusalem and Israel, it'll go an hour and a half past 12 hours. And then when it comes to winter, it'll go an hour and a half below 12 hours. But you still count the morning, like that's why I use 6 o'clock as the beginning of a day. Now, depends on what time of year, 6 o'clock can be very bright like this, with the sun almost setting, or 6 o'clock can be pitch dark, which is in the winter. But that's how you know that the sun is a sign of days and years. So when you see the sun out longer, you know it's summertime. When you see the sun out shorter, you know it's winter time. That's how it's a sign of season, very easily. And the moon does the exact opposite.